Welcome to the Dean Dive. Today, we are not just analyzing a plot. We are, in fact, performing a forensic narrative autopsy.
That's right.
We are jumping straight into a system that has already achieved a state of critical failure. This is a world where media addiction is literally terminal.
And you, our listener, have provided the sources. So we are going to treat every single detail, every symptom, every fractured memory as clinical evidence of the story's underlying disease.
So this is our mission.
Exactly. Our mission is to meticulously document this collapse, and we're using the source material's own internal lexicon as our diagnostic tool.
It has to be that way.
It's the only way. We are mapping causality with absolute neutrality. So for a moment, you have to forget comprehension. We are simply mapping contagion.
And we begin, as the source dictates, in media res.
Mid-mechanism. We're starting with the immediate physiological evidence of contamination and compulsion, which we are defining as Jules' pathophysiology.
Okay, so let's unpack this initial fracture point, this break in her personal timeline. The sources tell us about a sustained duration characterized by not caring, and then, almost like a switch is flipped, the pathology strikes.
It really is that sudden.
Yeah.
Caring crashes back in. This violent phrase.
It is, and it's instantly converted, not to simple concern, not even to worry, but to obsessive worry.
And that obsession has a laser focus.
Immediately, shockingly, on her teeth. You have to ask why. Why does the decay of the enamel become the physical manifestation of her psychological crisis?
Because the physical betrayal is so precise, it's so material. The source material provides the specific caustic agent,
It does.
smoking base cocaine,
Not
and it's described in chilling detail. It's not just damaging, it's eating, corroding, and directly attacking the enamel.
So this elevates the addiction narrative beyond, a simple moral or spiritual decay.
Oh, completely. It is a physical breach.
Right.
It's a sustained chemical assault on the body's most durable structure. The substance is documented as an acid that actively, dismantles the self, starting with the outer layer.
And what's her defense mechanism against this overwhelming chemically induced structural decay?
Well, her defense is more of a symptom, isn't it?
It is. She carries this ridiculously expensive technical diagnostic tool, this anti-weapon, in her Latin cloth purse.
And inside, you find a traveler's brush and toothpaste with alleged enamel revitalizers and anti-corrosives.
This item is a futile attempt at material reversal. It's the ultimate example of a kind of magical thinking.
Right. Believing that an expensive, technologically advanced paste can somehow undo systemic narrative decay caused by the cocaine.
She is literally trying to buy her way back to structural integrity.
But the decay isn't just internalized, it's communal. The evidence of sustained corrosion is everywhere in her environment.
You see it in the other residents. The sight of Wade McDade or Chandler Foss with their blackened and disintegrating teeth, that induces an acute psychological response.
And the text gives it a name. The Fantods.
For those unfamiliar, that's an old Southern term, basically meaning the absolute jitters, a fit of nervous psychological dread.
So this external visual proof, the decay of others, it just galvanizes her internal panic. It's a perfect feedback loop of terror.
And this is where the dread really weaponizes itself. This pathological anxiety manifests in the dream mechanism.
The physical setup here is critical. She's lying on her side, and the text specifies that the veil's selvage, the edge of the cheesecloth, is tucked secure between pillow and jaw.
So that veil, it's no longer just a concealment.
No, it's an interface. It is the secure conduit between her waking material anxiety about her dentition and the complete data corruption that occurs in her personal timeline during sleep.
And in this dream state, we get the perfect, yet terrifyingly flawed operator, Don Gately.
He functions as Dr. Don, the solo dentist. He's unhurt, he's got a Mid-South accent. His whole environment is designed to promise safety.
Right, he's humming softly, his instruments are gleaming, the light is sterilely clean. It's everything you'd want in a dentist's office.
But the critical failure point, the mechanism of distortion, resides immediately in his equipment.
The dental mirror.
Exactly. The polished metal disc attached to the strap above his eyes. And despite being, as the text says, clean as the instrument's tray, it yields a pathological reflection. It's a tool of truth in a lie of a setting.
That reflection is the raw, unflattering data of her condition presented without any filter. Her face, viewed in that mirror, and the disc is like a third horrifying eye in Gately's forehead, is convexly distorted and ravaged by years of cocaine and not caring.
And the text documents the physical decay symptom by symptom. The bug eyes and sunken cheeks, lampblack smudges beneath the pop eyes.
The cumulative physical consequence of her period of not caring is magnified, preserved, and reflected right back at her. It's saying, this is what you are now.
And the distortion immediately spirals into what the outline calls recursive dread.
Yes. As the warm, thick fingers gently draw back her lips, the revelation is not decay, it's something else. It's malignancy.
She sees long rows of all canine teeth, tapered and sharp, with then more rows of canines behind them, in reserve.
They're strong, they're unblackened, but they're tinged with an odd kind of red, as of old blood.
And this is the ultimate narrative betrayal. These are teeth guilty of actions she hasn't known about.
So they represent an internalized trauma, an autonomous violence, a guilt acting completely outside the purview of her conscious self.
The dream confirms the terminal loop. She tries to cry out in fear, and the disc, that mirror, it blots out Gately's good, comforting face.
And the only image left is the reflection of endless, red-stained rows of teeth leading back and away down a pitch-black pipe.
Then you had the dentist's final diagnosis.
These can be saved.
An absolute clinical lie. It's completely contradicted by the visual evidence right in front of her.
So the mind is trying to offer assurance, but the visual data is proving the system is already terminal. It's trapped in a feedback loop of hidden, consuming guilt. This is a terrifying level of self-diagnosis delivered through a dream.
And if the individual body is failing, the narrative body is also infected. So that personal decay transitions us immediately to the analysis of the group pathology, the malignant narrative cyst.
The entertainment itself, and how it's being mapped by the AFR operational structure. This is the moment the internal personal trauma becomes an external political weapon.
The central object, the vector of contamination, is a plot device of profound power.
The third cartridge. They secured it after the death of Duplessis. It's emblazed with that embossed smile and the letters disclaiming need of happy pursuit.
It's designated the samizdat cartridge of entertainment. And for our listeners, samizdat just means it's an illicit, underground, usually self-published or copied version.
So this copied object, this malignant cyst, was surgically secured, but it was already leaking. It was already spreading its corrosive influence across the AFR unit.
And the mechanism of inescapable contamination is documented right at the start of the viewing rotation.
Yeah.
You have to remember, the members weren't looking for the master copy at first.
No, they were sampling dregs of unshelved entertainments found in kitchen can waste bags.
The exposure was incidental, almost accidental, but catastrophic in its effect. It demonstrates how easily this pathological desire finds purchase even in the midst of a dedicated military intelligence operation.
And the cost of this exposure, it's meticulously itemized in the statistical losses. They lost the young Desjardins, who had just complained moments before about the wasted time viewing dregs. And they lost the older, valued Joubert, the red-bearded workhorse.
Joubert, a man described as loving to pop wheelies, was diabetic, he was diabetic, and refused his insulin. This is a crucial clinical detail mapped directly onto his narrative obsession.
The film overrode the most fundamental involuntary physiological imperative, survival via glucose regulation. It's hard proof that this plot device functions as a true contagion.
And the clinical postmortem confirms the terminal loop induced by the plot device.
The deceased are made comfortable. They're allowed to view the entertainment again and again, silent behind the door.
And the only sounds heard by the watch detail are cries of impatience at the player's rewinder to rewind.
Think about that. Their last moments are not panic or realization or fear. They are profound, consuming impatience.
Impatience that the machine isn't moving fast enough to re-administer the pathological experience. They died desiring more repetition.
That technical limitation then forces a huge causal shift in the operations narrative.
The found copy was read-only .303. That's described as the expected bad news.
They can't duplicate it. The initial objective is forfeited right there.
Right, so Fortier, the commander, he accepts that the device for extending ONAN's self-destructing logic now lies within their arduous grasp. They've moved from trying to destroy the contagion to trying to understand and control it.
And the focus shifts entirely. It moves from the object, the read-only copy, to the source.
The auteur, the progenitor of the disease.
So the task now becomes the more arduous and risky task of taking for technical interview known persons and securing the original master, the auteur's own cartridge.
This necessitates a massive reallocation of resources, a concentration of surveillance. They're pulling AFR personnel from other assignments and relocating them to the commandeered Inman Square shop. All operational activity now vectors toward the source.
And that vector leads straight to a performer and a location.
The surveillance targets are meticulously cataloged, the deceased auteur's colleagues, and specifically the performer.
An employee at the Academy of Tennis of Enfield, a former MIT source, last employed at the small Cambridge radio station WE.
And she had donned the defacing veil of ONANite deformity.
So all plot elements are now aimed at this person and the Academy itself. The plot is contracting, it's closing in on the geographic nexus of the contagion.
And this shift required aggressive acquisition protocols.
The technical engineer of the radio station was acquired in a public but low-risk operation.
He divulged all he professed to know under the mere descriptive threat of technical interview procedures.
And Morassas, who acts as the expert lay judge of American veracity, he believed the engineer.
He did, yet a formal technical interview proceeded anyway in order to verify. You have to appreciate the bureaucratic rigor being applied to an existential threat.
And even in this extreme situation, there's this moment of narrative static.
Yes.
The only variance in the consistent report involved several curious claims that the Massachusetts Institute of Technology was defensive in bed.
A totally useless piece of data logged with the same clinical precision as the coordinates of the surveillance site. It just confirms that even in a clinical debriefing, human absurdity cannot be fully filtered out.
But this acquired subject, the technical engineer, whose limited statements were verified, is immediately put into service.
He's no longer a person. He's now just a sensor, a tool for measurement.
For the anatomy of the field test, what we are calling the metrics of terminal desire.
This transition leads us into one of the most clinically horrifying sections of the source material.
The USA student radio engineering person serves as the AFR's first subject for field tests of the samizdat cartridge's motivational range.
They use a storage room again. His head is immobilized with straps. He is allowed to view the entertainment twice, at gratis, without any application of motivational inquiry.
They're establishing a baseline.
Exactly. And then the core diagnostic procedure is implemented by M. Bruleem. And it's a chilling piece of clinical coldness designed specifically to test the limits of desire against bodily integrity.
Bruleem rolls himself blindfolded into the storage room, holding an orthopedic saw.
And he informs the subject that each subsequent viewing now has the price of 1 digit from the subject's extremities.
And this is the most crucial detail. He hands the subject the orthopedic saw in question.
The violence is not administered by the AFR. It is self-administered. It is a direct function of the pathological desire induced by the film.
The entertainment forces the consumer to perform the cost calculation and the physical amputation himself.
This entire procedure is to establish the calculus of unsatiation. Bruleem's statistical goal is to compute the relation between n, the number of replays, and t, the time taken to decide and remove a digit for the n+1 viewing.
The objective is terrifyingly simple: to confirm, with statistical assurance, the subject's desire for viewing and reviewing as incapable of satiation.
They are literally charting the point at which desire conquers pain.
And this computation is necessary because, for the entertainment to be the macro-politically lethal weapon it is theorized to be, it must deny the law of diminishing returns.
It has to completely refute the diminishing satisfaction, as in the econometrics of normal USA commodities.
The 9th digit must come off as quickly and willingly as the 2nd. If the desire diminishes, the weapon fails.
The horrifying data they seek is proof of a consumption loop that cannot be closed.
And the pathology's expansion is already anticipated. The AFR recognizes the necessity of acquiring additional subjects.
And there are criteria for these subjects. They must be passively undefended, not damaged in the brains, or under the influence of intoxicant compounds.
They are required for the time when the initial subject's digits are expended. This is to ensure the matrix of terminal desire can be completed across multiple sensibilities of entertainment consumer.
They view human beings as consumable resources, necessary for their statistical model.
And we see the environmental projection of this contagion when Fortier is on the southbound bus. He doesn't just imagine a city paralyzed. He sees the physical manifestation of its collapse.
2/3 of the largest urban area is inert, sybaritically entranced. The business district's towers are striated as 2 of every 3 floors is darkened to lightless black.
With only the vaguely blue flicker of expensive digital entertainment equipment flickering through darkened windows. The contamination is already structural. The economic function of the city has been replaced by terminal, silent viewing.
This functional collapse brings us directly to environmental contamination and sensory betrayal. This is where Maratha performs his pathological observation from within the contaminated scene.
The Ennett House Recovery Facility. His mission is to observe the target, but the environment itself is just screaming out symptoms of decay.
Marathe, sitting veiled and blanket-lapped in the much-crowded living room evening of the demi-maison, is immediately assaulted by the setting's pathology.
The ceiling is yellow like the fingers of long smokers. The room is loud, it's hot, and it smells like an ashtray. It's described as an anthill which had been stirred with a stick.
It's an environment defined by filth and chaos, a far cry from the sterility of Gately's dream dentistry.
And the visual static confirms this internal collapse. The occupants are not recovering, they are displaying symptoms of narrative fragmentation.
We document a man without hands and feet trying to negotiate the stairway, a tormented-appearing man scuttling like the crab while two hooligans jump over him.
And most horrifyingly, a woman who seemed to remove her eye from her head and placed it in her mouth.
These extreme physiological and psychological distress signals are treated by the other inhabitants as just ambient noise, which confirms the scene's pathological normalization.
And Marathe, the foreign agent, he experiences complete communication failure. Several people approach him and only whisper the command, "Pet the dogs."
Or make sure and pet the dogs.
This expression is not in Marathe's knowledge of USA idiom, but it's repeated over and over. It highlights his complete sensory and linguistic isolation, reinforcing the foreignness of this scene's internal logic.
He's a spy trying to decode a language of localized madness.
But the central encounter provides the most disturbing piece of sensory data.
The addicted man who approaches Marathe, kneeling. His eyes possess the vacant intensity of those who have violently died, or the eye of a fish in a vendor's crushed ice, studying nothing.
But the smell is the critical diagnostic datum. It suggests livestock on a hot day and contains the specific chemical material trans-3-methyl-2-hexanoic acid.
And the text identifies this acid as being present in the sweat of grave mental illness. Maratha is smelling the chemistry of institutionalized pathology.
And this man is marked by trauma. He wears a needle run through the top of his ear which glistens and did not glisten rapidly in succession because of the jiggling of his boot.
And his blue jeans are torn in a pattern Marathe recognizes. He sees holes with a size and perimeter damage of holes that Marathe recognized had been made by shotgun blasts of a high gauge.
So this is a figure marked by proximity to extreme violence, now exhibiting acute paranoia, kneeling at Marathe's feet.
And the malignancy is revealed in his whisper, the metal people theory.
He asserts that most of the room's inhabitants ain't real. They possess only a micro-thin layer of skin over metal with heads full of parts.
And the flaw, the physiological symptom that betrays their true mechanism, is the micro-faint whirring of the processor's gears. This whirring is inescapable, a constant narrative static the mechanical people cannot eliminate.
And this paranoia expands into the terminal loop projection. The man states that the real world's one room.
Yet all the shifting locations, the facility, the street, the offices, are merely projected pictures on the walls to fool us that are real.
He claims there are only 26 total machines playing different characters to fool the real ones. This conspiracy theory serves as a kind of narrative truth in this contaminated scene. Movement is an illusion, and personality is interchangeable programming.
The man is observing the failure of narrative coherence in real time.
And Marathe, who is prepared to die violently at any time, is therefore free to choose among emotions. This allows him to stare calmly back at this chaos.
The proximity is extreme. The man's nose touches the veil when Marathe finally inhales. The composite smell, the acid, digested cheese, the under of an arm, it penetrates the veil.
And Marathe, in a flash of clinical necessity, ignores impulses to impale the eye sockets with a two-finger motion. He has to maintain the veneer of the addicted and deformed Swiss person he is impersonating.
And despite the visceral threat and the sensory assault, Marathe's primary focus remains on data acquisition. He is mentally memorizing every detail, compiling his report.
The man's final devastating warning, "You ain't here, the real world's one room," is the ultimate environmental betrayal.
It suggests the surveillance subject is not safely outside the projection looking in. He is already caught inside the projected illusion, trapped in the room with the machines.
Moving from the pathology of the environment, we shift to the recursive trauma and the hidden auteur. We're dissecting the pathology of the Incandenza family plot as it relates to Joel's new compulsive behavior.
This is the narrative system that produced the lethal entertainment.
The pathological necessity of cleaning is established as a direct transference of trauma. Joel finds she just like to clean, having previously cleaned high.
And cleaning functions as a form of meditation for addicts too new in recovery to sit still.
But this compulsion is rooted in her past with Orin Incandenza. It was used as creative visualization and a preview of the discipline and order needed to survive solo.
She is not cleaning for hygiene. She is erecting psychological fortifications against future abandonment.
And the central failure of explanation lies in the figure of Jim Incandenza, the auteur, known as himself, or the Mad Snork.
Oren states his father missed the part of the human brain for awareness of others. He calls him a black hole with a face that is any room's fifth wall, wearing the mask.
The father is defined by his profound absence of interiority towards others, a void that deeply impacts his artistic output. He is a clinical study in lack of empathy.
And we have to analyze the work's resistance to empathy. The early oeuvres were technically gorgeous, planned out to the frame, yet oddly hollow, empty, no sense of dramatic towardness.
They're described as being like conversing with a prisoner through that plastic screen using phones.
The films reflect the man's internal life, cold, perfectly structured, hidden, speaking only to himself, forcing the viewer into the position of the isolated prisoner.
Yet there are these furtive human flashes, moments of emotional data corruption that are almost subliminal, suggesting the man couldn't fully eradicate humanity from his work.
In the Medusa v. the Odalisque, Jella notes 3 quick, unstudiably fast cuts of the gorgeous combatants' faces. They are twisted past recognition with some kind of torment,
Suggesting that their beauty ate them alive.
and the film's speed was potentially upped to thwart just such study. This indicates the auteur's internal conflict. He is reluctant to reveal genuine human pain, compromising his cold structure with these split-second flickers of anguish.
And then there's the transcendent stasis, the 4-minute motionless low-angle shot of Bernini's Ecstasy of St. Teresa in prenuptial agreement of heaven and hell.
The importance of this scene lies entirely in its absence of intrusion. The lack of the alcoholic sandwich bag salesman's tiresome, ubiquitous, involuted head.
This provides freedom from one's own head, presenting self-forgetting as the grail. The ultimate emotional objective of the work, hidden and oblique, is the annihilation of self-obsession, the escape from the ego.
And the Thanksgiving dinner at ETA serves as a clinical field test of the family's pathology. It's a deeply contaminated scene.
Dr. Incandenza is physically symptomatic. He appears like an ecologically poisoned crane who slumps something awful. He's drinking a substance that makes the air above it shimmer slightly.
The entire environment is one of hypermediation, orchestrated by Avril Incandenza, the moms. She's over 2 meters tall with immaculate posture, functioning as the family's pulse and center.
And the family unit displays a collective physical symptom that confirms Avril's central gravitational role. The whole table inclined very subtly toward Avril, very slightly and subtly, like heliotropes.
Like flowers that follow the sun.
Exactly. And Joel observes Avril's grace, which she detects nothing fake about, but simultaneously feels sure in her guts pit that the woman could have surgically removed and eaten Joel's organs unremarked by all who leaned her way.
This, the emotional paradox. Perfect presentation, masking a perceived visceral threat of consumption and violence.
The terminal loop of trauma is confirmed in the aftermath. Oren's post-dinner nightmare, which Joel felt should have been hers, occurs while she is awake at A400.
And what is she doing? She's cleaning back behind the refrigerator for the second time.
The trauma, the family secrets, and the emotional threat are transferred and materialized as her compulsive, wide-ranging order. The family is not open. Their overt eccentricity is merely a pretense that overt eccentricity was the same as openness.
And the cleaning is the physical performance of trying to manage the unmanageable secrets.
So now, all these narrative lines converge. We conclude our autopsy at the point of critical failure, the convergence at the demi-maison, where Marathi's intelligence mission collides directly with the plot's primary vectors.
This is where the contagion is confirmed to reside.
And Marathi's diagnostic error is immediate and structurally significant. He very seldom misjudged persons, yet he identifies the desperately addicted man Selwyn, the one who whispered of metal people, as the authority figure.
And he's wrong. The actual woman in authority is described by her physical markers of internal pathology. One leg thinner by far of her other leg, and one hand twisted in the manner of a claw.
The real power is defined by silent physical deformity, not loud, symptomatic paranoia.
And Marathi's own physiological symptoms reveal his deep fatigue, his own internal structural stress. He is driven distracted by the involuntary habit to pretend to sniff.
A false sniff which came from nowhere, signaling internal exhaustion.
And when he produces the OINS documents, the authority accepts the narrative of his gangrenous legs as a consequence of the progression and abuse of the drugs. His cover story is validated by the facility's existing narrative structure of failure and dependency.
And the environmental betrayal occurs in the office itself. Marathi is meticulously committing the office's facts to memory.
No bolt of death, a cheap recess lock, no standard microwave alarming. He's noting the model numbers of the cheap Indonesian teleputer. He's recording the structural weaknesses of the containment field.
And then the pathogen is cited.
The authority reaches into the old black metal cabinet. Visible among the smaller font titles, focal length parameters XE1, drop volley X2 are 2 cases of plain brown plastic.
Blank, except for tiny round faces of embossed smiles upon the brown cases.
Marathi, tilted upward through the deadening fluorescence of USA light and the silter of his cheesecloth veil, cites the signature mark of the lethal entertainment.
This realization causes excitement of himself, a momentary fracture in his clinical composure. The target is confirmed.
And the convergence is confirmed simultaneously with the sighting of the pathogen. The authority confirms they have a UHID member, a fellow Veil, the veiled performer in early residency,
who might be able to help you adjust, identify.
The sought-after source of the contagion, the person capable of creating or distributing this pathological media, is localized to this precise site of contamination.
So Marathi enters the state of rapid split-mind calculation. The choice, fracture point.
He must decide in that moment. 1. Accept the Convertisofa offer to remain and observe the veiled patient. 2. Alert Fortier and the AFR about the cartridges.
Or 3. Alert Steeply and ONAN about both. And the stakes are immense, primarily placing his bets on ONAN for the safety of his wife Gertrude, whose difficulties include the terrifying detail of ventricle and lack of skull.
And the failure of violence is noted, almost parenthetically. The idea of snapping the authority's neck is dismissed as inutile, useless, and impractical of surrounding witness.
His moral fatigue, the fact that he lost the belly for this type of work, forces him into this strategic calculation. He's weighing the wrath of Fortier against the prospect of high-income medical care and protection for his wife. The calculation is the failure itself.
The arrival of the nexus interrupts the calculation, confirming the final causal link.
Jeanette, knocking and entering at the same time. A young girl with missing teeth and a generic diaper pin transperson in nostril, radiating a clinical coldness from the exterior. She confirms the loop.
And Jeanette is instructed to run the Donny cartridges, donated goods, which were brought from ETA, the Academy of Tennis of Enfield.
They are run through after lights out to check and make sure they're appropriate.
This means the lethal product from the source, ETA, is delivered directly to the location of the veiled performer, UHID in Ennet House, passing through the filtration of a resident staff member. The plot's contaminated circle is complete. All elements are now within a 25-kilometer radius.
And the narrative autopsy concludes with terminal loop static. Marathi, having failed to resolve his calculation, which action to prioritize, to whom to report, is left smiling largely, pretending to sniff.
His action is stasis. He has confirmed his fatal proximity to the source of the narrative pathology, and the system has failed to generate a necessary move. The calculation itself has become the only action taken.
The clinical picture concludes with the absolute confirmation of the plot's contamination.
The source of the lethal entertainment, the test subjects, the surveillance apparatus, and the veiled performer are all localized within the Ennet House demi-maison. The system has collapsed internally, and the structural integrity of the narrative has been breached.
And the most important insight here is that every attempt to secure narrative safety, whether it's Joel's frantic, recursive cleaning, the AFR's statistical matrices of self-sacrifice, or Maratha's detailed, obsessive memorization of minutiae, is ultimately futile.
It is. The story is a contaminated scene. And the true horror lies in the statistical confirmation that the desire for the entertainment is incapable of satiation. It is designed to consume the host entirely, leaving no possibility of recovery or return.
So what remains is the failure of resolution, the precise cost of Maratha's silence, the final consequence of the surgeon's knife in the dream mirror, and the critical failure to cohere in a world where 2 of every 3 floors are darkened, flickering with the vague blue light of expensive digital entertainment equipment.
The only verifiable reality is the universal consuming desire for more input.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought for your own observation. In a narrative structure built entirely on projection and defined by micro-thin layers, whether it's the thin film of skin over the metal people or the performance of grace by the incandenza matriarch, what is the functional distinction between that micro-thin layer and the cheesecloth veil?
Both exist only to filter and ultimately fail to contain the horrifying reality that they cover. Keep your eyes open.